Please find a seat. Wow, people usually don't get that quiet that quick. Well, good morning again. I'm going to call this meeting to order for Senate Resolution 275, the expanding of Georgia's Workforce Study Committee for our final meeting. We have had 6 wonderful meetings throughout this state. And I mentioned at each one of those as we began, this was an initiative from Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, and he asked myself and appointed a committee here, which were all present, in order to explore ways that we could expand Georgia's workforce. And he is here today to address our committee. So, Lieutenant Governor, if you would please join us, we'd love to hear from you.
All right. Good morning, and it's good to be here. Thank you, Chairman Albers. I appreciate you having me, and thank you, committee members, for participating in this. Something that's very important to me and very dear to my heart. I will have to say that I have been traveling around the state and seeing a lot of different between our technical colleges. Senator Halper and I have been touring our HBCU universities and also our universities from Statesboro all the way up to North Georgia as well, and a lot of our college and career academies. And we are really hammering home that we've got to get our young people prepared for workforce development, and the thing that's great that's going on here in the state of Georgia, there's a whole lot of opportunities on the business front. It doesn't matter if you're talking about opportunities like down in Savannah with the Hyundai EV industry, or the Gulfstream market, or if you're talking about Dalton where you've got the carpet industry, or Gainesville where I went to something that the Daniels Construction operation, they were doing a big workforce development involving our young high schoolers, and they were teaching them skills in carpentry and electricity and things of that nature. And so what I have seen is that there's plenty of activity out there going on with private businesses and things of that nature, and we've got to be able to, as a state, harness those opportunities and partner with those different groups around the state to help build out our workforce, and we need to be focused on at every level, from K through 12 to the technical colleges, as well as to our university systems. And I just want to make a special thank you to my good friend Champ Bailey, who came in and early in the session, and he and I talked about a few things. And Champ and I were at Georgia together. I actually played with his brother more than I did Champ, and of course I didn't play much with Champ when I actually played with him. He was so much better than all the rest of us. But at any rate, when he came in and was talking about how passionate he was about wanting to give back to his state, like I have, I said, well, you know what, let's partner on this and let's see if we can come up. Champ is from a small town in Folkestone, Georgia, small town a lot like where I'm from, and we know exactly the limitations that a lot of the young people run into being from small communities and things of that nature, and so anytime you've got somebody with his stature and posture and all the accolades that he's achieved through athletics, when you've got somebody like that wants to be helpful and giving back to communities like his around the state, it's meaningful, and I wanted to harness that and say, well, we're going to do some other projects as soon as this is over with. So we're looking forward to the recommendations, Chairman Albers, that you're going to come with. But I think we have a good idea. I know y'all have met a lot, and I really appreciate everyone's time in doing that, because I know that y'all are doing this out of the love for your communities, and most people in here are doing this on a voluntary basis, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the senators who've served on here, Brandon Beach, who's the head of our economic development, and also, as I mentioned, Senator Halperin, who she and I have several projects going on, that include a lot of it includes workforce development and things of that nature. And like I said, this is one of those things that it it breaks across party lines and everything else, because it's talking about trying to harness the talent that I know we have in this state, and help us continue to be a very prosperous state, and a very continue to have that record of the best place to do business, and we want to have the best workforce, for businesses to acquire and come to. So thank y'all very much, Senator, and I appreciate everyone's time and everyone who's interested in this, and I look forward to working with y'all after we get done with the recommendations. Y'all have a great day today, okay?
Thank you.
Senator, can I make a comment, Governor?
Yep.
Before the governor leaves, I want to thank you for your red tape initiative. It'll get rid of some cumbersome regulation, but it will also streamline the licensing process, so we can get people to work that are coming to our state that are licensed in other states, and we can get these people to work, and it'll help from a workforce development standpoint. So thank you for your red tape rollback. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Great point. Thank you again, Lieutenant Governor Jones, for putting his faith and trust and an honor for all of us to serve. I want to take a moment to thank our working committee first. This group has, as mentioned, spent a lot of time when we're not meeting, preparing for those meetings, gathering information, getting all the logistics put together. They've done a phenomenal job, and we are going to have a photo with both our committee and our working committee right after this is done. We're going to walk down the steps over here to the grand staircase on the south side of the building to get that committee photo done. So please don't leave before we get that accomplished. Next, I want to thank each one of you. You spent a lot of time away from your day jobs, other things that you have to focus on at home. My friend Ryan Pernice and I, we've had to have more important discussions at his restaurant. We're going to have many more in the coming days. I just know that'll be the case. I think it's going to be disappointing to a lot of Georgians that Champ's not going to be at the next committee meeting to take a picture with, though. And you've been very gracious with your time and status. But folks, you spent a lot of time doing this, whether it be traveling to different areas as well as giving us your input, asking good questions. And I do very much appreciate what has been done. At this moment, before we get to the final report, I'm going to ask if anybody on the committee has any final thoughts or things they'd like to address to the committee and to those that are watching here in person or on video. Senator Halpern, you're 3. Go right ahead.
I would like to just say that the work of this committee has been really important, and just a thank you to you, Mr. Chairman, and the working committee for the organization, the ability for us to look at the full angles of small business and big business across a number of different industry sectors to really get our hands around where the problems are, not just anecdotally, but also through data, and being able to take all that information and compile it into a final report that I think we can all be proud of.
Thank you. Senator Beach?
Just echo what Senator Halpern said, and thank you for this committee in doing the hard work. I can tell you, as somebody that does economic development, not only do I chair economic development, I was CEO of the Chamber for 15 years and still do economic development in North Fulton. Workforce is an issue across industries. I mean, I don't care if it's healthcare or what industry it is, workforce is an issue, and we've got to tackle it. And I will tell you some of the recommendations going to these meetings and hearing how the carpet industry is working with the Department of Corrections, for example, and some of the unique things that are being done, and how we have to continue to work with not only high schools but now down to middle schools and really get these kids on career paths where they can, we heard from the Ford dealership gentleman that you can make 6 figures, and it's not an auto mechanic anymore. It's a computer job. It's a technology job now in these car dealerships. So we really learned a lot. I learned a lot, and it opened my eyes up. But we've got to make sure we're. I'm a firm believer the private sector creates jobs, not government. But what we can do is create a conducive environment and give the private sector the tools to be successful. And I think that's what this committee is going to do. And some of these recommendations, I like these recommendations a lot. I also brought up the point about how the construction industry has used these simulators to really train people. And I think that's something we need to continue to fund and look at across industries, these simulators that get these kids involved and get them to want to do these jobs. And so I just want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for this committee, and thank you for the folks that don't serve in the Senate that were on this committee. Thank you for that. And I'll make a motion at the proper time after everybody else speaks.
Fantastic. And we're going to do a summary of the report. And I think one of the things that we all learned as well is the incredible work that Commissioner Dozier and his staff are doing on our technical college system. For those that are not aware of that great work, hopefully this was an enlightening experience, and you're really doing an amazing job, your leadership and your vision. So thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate your help.
Thank you. And if I could just say
Please.
something. Mr. Chairman and committee, thank you so much for the focus. One of the things, I've had the blessing for 4 years to be part of TCSG, and honestly, the legacy of TCSG and the hard work precedes me coming 4 years ago. It's just an incredible group of folks that are trying to change lives and change communities. So one of the things I just want to say is thank you. The team out there is working hard. The focus is on workforce, and the team is ready to step up. And we appreciate your focus personally and this committee's and the Lieutenant Governor. We stand ready. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other members of the committee? Any final thoughts? All right, we're going to then turn it over to Haley. Now, I want to just take a moment to thank, again, the working committee, but specifically the work that Haley did. This has been a lot of information. And not only has she assembled and took all this and created what you see in front of you, which are the findings, but there's going to be an appendix that's going to go with this. It's going to have all of the volume of information that we have received during this process. She also worked with each of our speakers to make sure their presentations were addressing the needs of the committee, getting them ahead of time, working with our Senate press team in order to make sure we had those available to view, and we had copies made and all that stuff like that. So thank you for all your great work. And if you just give us kind of a high-level summary, we're not going to go point by point, but for those that are listening, the members of this committee got this report last week, so they had time to review, make any suggested adds or changes. And like any report, we think we made this just about right. Not too specific, where it was one group that wanted something that was just for them, but not too high level that it can't be meaningful. From this report, though, what you're going to see, and which is the initiative of our Lieutenant Governor, is legislation, budget, and other things are going to come out of this. This was not just an opportunity for us to get together and review. It was an opportunity for us to get something meaningful to act upon. And I'm going to look forward when we have those bills in front of full Senate committees and full House committees in 2024. I'm going to ask some of you to please come back and testify at those committees, because while it's important to hear from legislators, it's more important to hear from those who are industry leaders who have been a part of the process. So with that, Haley, I'm going to turn it over to you and turn your microphone on.
Okay. I'm on too?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, first of all, Chairman. Very kind words. I'm very happy to be useful. Moving on to the findings and recommendations section of the report, we broke them down into policy recommendations and legislative recommendations. Some of the policy recommendations will kind of overlap with legislative recommendations, but you will, it's organized in a way that it's pretty easy to follow. First of all, the workforce marketing was a trend across each and every meeting that we saw. Every single employer that we heard from expressed that it was very difficult to just inform people that certain jobs even exist and the benefits of them. So each of these touch on different initiatives for that, but I wanted to highlight the state-facilitated free platform like Indeed for all Georgia employers to use, because I think that was something that everyone was really excited about, and that will be something that is likely looped into a legislative initiative as well. K-12 and higher education. Of course, we also heard from countless employers that this is where it starts. So each of these initiatives are things that could theoretically be done unilaterally by education our education systems, our local education agencies, and our state education agencies. Particularly cleaning up the CTAE pathways. Those are highlighted in the K through 12 education policy recommendations. Goodness, what mouthfuls. And under higher education, you'll see several initiatives just encouraging TCSG to continue what they're doing, essentially, with more support from the legislature. And something that was highlighted in that is basically finding ways to celebrate acceptance and attendance at US or TCSG institutions. Our next and final subcategory under our policy recommendations will be inclusivity, and that is encompassing various subpopulations, but especially the population of Georgians that have developmental disabilities, which we heard from multiple employers as well, that we are just not reaching that subpopulation. Does anyone want to discuss these policy recommendations before we move on to the legislative? Or if you see anything specifically that you would like clarity on? Okay.
Seeing none, continue on.
Wonderful. So the legislative recommendations are a little more concise. First of all, the articulation agreements, we all heard multiple times that we need a better system for the transfer of credits, and that will require legislation. Under licensing, the pretty standard points of discussion, such as reciprocity agreements, and just generally increasing flexibility in obtaining licensure. Under program funding, I'll go ahead and just touch on these individually since there are only a few. Increased funding for tuition reimbursement in high-demand fields, and those examples would include nursing or even technical degrees such as welding certifications and things like that. A grant program for high school graduates to work for a local government entity of some sort, just to incentivize a gap year for students to get some real-world experience and contribute to their communities. And that was specifically brought out by the Lieutenant Governor's office as well. And the funding for the statewide employment portal that we talked about in the policy recommendations. And finally, we did talk a lot about benefit cliffs, but, and there have been really good studies. Daniela sent over some studies that have already been done that are really excellent, but we did agree that we should probably engage in further study for specific communities, revisiting programs to encourage and incentivize retirees to return to the workforce. And we also touched on with Senator Hickman these child care centers that are operating in Effingham and Bryan counties, where local school systems are building child care centers for the teachers and staff who work for those school systems. And finally, pass SB 112, which will establish the Excel Center pilot program, which will award high school diplomas to adults over the age of 21.
Excellent work. Thank you for giving us that overview and summary. Any final thoughts from the committee members? Senator Hickman, go right ahead.
Well, thank you. And I am very excited that Effingham County and Bryan County are building daycare centers for their teachers, and I think that's a big, big leap. Let me mention one other quick thing that came up yesterday is that, when we look at the QBE formula funds one counselor for every 400 students in a school, and we know that's a big, big issue. But what we came up on yesterday was those counselors are primary academic counselors. Maybe we, at some point in time, we need to be looking at career counselors for high schools to help these students, I keep calling them children, help these students determine what career they want to go into rather than take geometry or whatever. I think that's a big thing. And the other big thing I think is, and it came through the hearings, was how much we need more businesses involved in working with the schools and providing, you know, if Delta Airlines wants to recruit out of a certain school, maybe Delta Airlines needs to step up and provide the simulators for type things, and I think that's those type of things. I think we got. I know in our accounting world, we're very involved in universities, and we know by being involved in these universities, we get the opportunities to get the cream of the crop of the accountants coming out of school. And I think that's what our businesses need to be thinking about, that same situation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hickman. Any other comments? Yes, Dave, what number are we? Number 5, okay?
Chairman, thank you very much. I'd just like to circle back just briefly to on the policy recommendations under K-12 education. There's a number of good, really good, solid recommendations there. One that I know that the General Assembly has made some progress on already is in the area of computer science courses and providing staff to teach those courses in our Georgia high schools. A number of states throughout the country, I was doing a search on my way in, including 3 of our neighboring states. North Carolina just became effective last month, require passage of a computer science course as a graduation requirement. And we saw one of the things that really impressed me about everything that we heard on all these meetings was how important technology is to every job that we create today in Georgia. So I would potentially offer that for inclusion so that we could be on par with other states that we're competing with.
Yeah, no, I agree. And in fact, I've already had some conversations with Senator Clinton Dixon. He is the chair of our education committee for K through 12, and discussed that. And I think we've had a pretty good dialogue of how our education system has to evolve now, right? We've taught pretty much the same way, K through 12, and especially the university status, for about 85 years now. But the world's changed many times over. And I think we use the example that Commissioner Dozier and TCSG has done, but we need to apply that same methodology from kindergarten through 12th grade, and then certainly at our university level as well. Thank you. Other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Yep, hang on one second. What number are you there?
8.
8. Okay, go right ahead.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to point out that we actually do have a point in the policy recommendations on high school counselors. To your point, Chairman Hickman, that's something we've heard consistently, that if students don't have guidance to help them work through these college options and technical college options, they won't kind of be able to make their best decision. So just appreciate all your work on the Higher Education Committee, and certainly echo your thoughts too, on making sure that we've got employers engaged. I know that's kind of consistently what our businesses are asking for, is to get more involved in the K-12 system. So appreciate your leadership and then the work of this committee to make that easier so we can really build strategic pipelines that benefit students.
Thank you, Danielle. And yeah, Senator Hickman's literacy work that he's been doing with his committee and the legislation he's worked on has been extraordinary, because if a child can't read, then we've got a lot of problems ahead of them. So thank you for your great work. Other comments or questions from the committee members? Seeing none, I'm going to recognize Senator Beach for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the Senate Study Committee report on expanding Georgia workforce that was created by Senate Resolution 275.
Second.
And I've got a second from Senator Halpern. Is there any further discussion before we take a vote on this committee report? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. The next step for this is we will print out the final report. We will sign it. We'll submit it back to the Lieutenant Governor's office and to the Secretary of the Senate. It will also go up on the website. If you remember, Expanding Georgia's Workforce Study is an active website. We will keep it up for some time to make sure everybody can see the work that was done here. It will also be posted on the General Assembly website, which is legis.ga.gov. You'll be able to find that report there as well. I know after committees are over, typically everybody wants to chat either here or with the folks that are here in the audience, but I'm going to ask you to give us a pass right now, because as soon as we're done, I'm going to ask everybody if we can walk right out this door to the side. We're going to go down the stairs to get our picture made before everybody goes in different directions. So at this time, we're going to conclude this study committee and call this meeting hereby adjourned. Thank you. Have a great day.